everyone. I am super excited that I have a mother-daughter duo here who have both been writing amazing books. We have Peg Cook and her daughter, Annette Ilowiecki, and they have written a beautiful picture book that we got to show last year, but also individually have written books. Peg, you have written When a Girl Loves a Horse, and Annette, you wrote Cowgirl Trails. And so I'd ask you both to tell us a little bit about this story. Peg, why don't we start with When a Girl Loves a Horse? Tell us about this story and what inspired you to write it.
Well, the story is about a girl. Her name is Anna. And when she's about 6 years old, her dad hoists her up on a workhorse and takes her in the field. And it's the first time Anna's ever been on a horse. And she is just overwhelmed with the wonderfulness of it. And then when she's about her first day of school, she's in a one-room schoolhouse, and her teacher always starts the day by the classroom by reading to the whole school. And the teacher reads Misty of Chincoteague. Anna is absolutely enthralled with that story. And at the age of 6 years old, she knew that someday she would stand beside Misty and run her fingers through the horse's mane and probably feel the warm breath of the horse on her cheek. And the story just tells what happened after she knew that and told her teacher that she knew what she was going to do.
What inspired you to write this story?
Oh, I'm really not sure. I've always loved horses. Annette and I went to Chincoteague and we saw the wild ponies, and we heard the story of, well, Annette had heard the story of Misty. I don't know. The idea just came to me of how this could happen, because I know when my first ride on a horse, I felt the same way that Anna did, and it just kind of grew from there.
Do you have a favorite scene from the book?
Yes, I do. I'd like to read it to you.
Yes.
Okay. Anna is sitting at her desk in this one-room school on her first day of school. Anna sat quietly and looked around at the other students. They seemed to be waiting for something. The teacher picked up a book and showed it to them. He read the title, Misty of Chincoteague, written by Margaret Henry. Anna leaned forward. Is he going to read to us? She asked herself. I hope so. She always loved to hear her mom or dad read to her and her brother Andrew. She learned that if she let her eyelids fall to meet her lower eyelashes, she could see whatever was happening in the story. Anna looked more closely at the pony on the book cover. Yes, she thought, that must be Misty, and she's looking straight at me. Mr. Weaver began reading. Anna closed her eyes. The story began with a shipload of ponies escaping from a Spanish galleon, sinking in a wild, unrelenting ocean storm. She saw them struggle to keep their heads above water as waves threatened to push them deep down below the ocean surface. Anna held her breath, willing the ponies to swim. Please, God, please don't let them drown, she begged silently. When they finally placed hooves on land, she allowed herself to breathe. Her involuntary, oh, thank you, could be heard across the schoolroom.
That's wonderful. That's awesome. What was the most challenging part of this book to write?
I think the most challenging part of this book for me was trying to find the words. Okay, when I write a book, I really want the reader to be right in the center of the story, just feeling what the character feels. And so the challenging part is trying to find the words to trigger the reader's emotion so she can jump into that and be right there and actually sort of become Anna.
Well, I think you did a great job based off that little bit you shared with us. I definitely felt like I was there. So
Oh, thank you, thank you.
awesome. So Annette, I want to jump to you now and let's hear about your story, Cowgirl Trails, and sort of what inspired you to write about it.
Well, actually, my own life inspired me to write about this. It's a fictional account of me, um, but it's taken real life excerpts from since I was a little girl. I always wanted to be a cowboy when I grew up. I mean, there was no other option, right? So I pursued that, like on my dad's dairy farm, pretended all the cows were Texas Longhorns. I was the ranch foreman. I mean, and Gunsmoke, Matt Dillon, Marshall Dillon inspired me. Um, so it's just based on my real life events of how I went from wishing and wanting to be a cowgirl to actually being one in Colorado as a trail guide through the Rocky Mountains and at Camp Pendleton Base Stables in the Marine Corps. I was a trail guide, and then I did other things with horses. So that's what inspired this story.
Wonderful. So tell us a little bit about the story itself and some of the characters we will find in this Cowgirl Trails.
Well, you will find Carla Johnson. She's the main character. And so you're going to hear a lot about her. And she read all the horse stories when she was a kid. And one of the stories that Carla read was about Sergeant Reckless, who was a horse in the Marine Corps who served in the Korean War. Actually, this horse was actually made like a Marine, like given the rank of sergeant as a Marine, as a horse, which is really cool. So you're going to hear about how Sergeant Reckless also inspired Carla to become a Marine, which I actually did in real life. And then the Marine Cowboys at Camp Pendleton, they were the trail guides already there, not really wanting this girl, to invade their territory and become a trail guide. So you're going to hear about, how they were, some comments they made and how they bet I couldn't do this thing. And then a whole old hard ass gunny sergeant is there, and the captain, and the ranch foreman in Colorado. And then the horses. Jill Marine was a horse in Camp Pendleton, and Mama Pepper became my favorite guide horse in Colorado. And this horse Rat, who was a retired rodeo horse, has a significant part in the Cowgirls Trail.
So, do you have a favorite part of this book?
Well, I do. I'm so glad you asked. And I would just love to read to this little excerpt.
You bet. I'd love to hear it.
Okay, so this is in Colorado. Suddenly, oh, wait, where is it? Oh my gosh. This is in Colorado, and Carla is climbed aboard Rat. And she's, okay, Rat trotted easily now alongside the stragglers. They're herding horses across the road into the night pasture. Suddenly, a flash of lightning cracked open the sky. Just like on cue, 3 horses veered away from the herd. They kicked up their heels, stretched out their necks, and challenged the storm to outrun them. In one fluid motion, Rat spun on his heels and jumped into full gallop. At the same moment, Carla grabbed the saddle horn and prayed God help to stay seated during this rocket launch. She leaned forward, gave her horse full rein, and yelled, "Let's get 'em, Rat." Then they go galloping through the storm, chasing down these 3 renegade horses.
Wow, awesome. That's super exciting, like very on your edge of your seat. So what was the most challenging part of writing this book?
Actually making me into a fictional character. I mean, like Carla Johnson is me, and it was really hard for me to write about someone else playing myself in a story. And then when her life actually veers away from what really happened in my own life, you know, it was challenging to let her run with her own story, because I leave out a lot of, you know, this bad stuff that happened in my own life, and just focus on all the cool things that she did that got her to become that cowboy, living that cowboy dream that she had when she was a girl. So that was challenging.
Awesome. Okay, so I have to ask both of you, do you have a favorite novel out there? Since these are horse books, do you have a favorite horse book out there that you would like to share with our readers?
My Friend Flicka by Mary O'Hara. I read it when I was a kid, and I read it. I couldn't stop reading it. I would take it back to the library, and the next time I went to the library, I pulled it out again. I must have read that book 100 times. Ken and Howard and Flicka and Rocket and Banner. I mean, that was my favorite book when I was.
That's awesome. Annette?
Wow, for me, it's hard to choose this one, but as far as horse books, I'd say the entire Black Stallion series by Walter Farley. I read this Black Stallion, and then I went on to read every single book in that series, and I used to own all of them, and now you can't hardly find them. I wish I still had them. But definitely Black Stallions by Walter Farley, and then of course Misty of Chincoteague by Margaret Henry. Those were two of my favorite horse books and authors.
Nice. As you were writing these stories, were there other resources that you turned to help you finish your writing?
Yeah, definitely. Well, with Carla Johnson in A Cowgirl's Trail, she reads about Sergeant Reckless. I mean, but Annette didn't read about Sergeant Reckless. All the horse stories I read as a kid, I never even heard of Sergeant Reckless until I was older. So I went ahead and got several books about that horse and read them so I could make accurate references to her. And then I did do some research about Camp Pendleton, how that's standing now, and so definitely research, and then the technical side of self-publishing a book. We found formatters on Fiverr, and you use all these little how-to YouTubes, how to edit, how to format, how to, make the physical book happen.
Very good. Yeah. In addition to all those online resources, were there any people who you had read your book or critiques that helped you get these books ready for publishing?
Oh, the Stormy Night Writers Society.
Yes.
Yes. This is a writers group that we belong to, and they meet in Cassopolis, Michigan at the Council on Aging. The man who initiated the group about 4 or 5 years ago, he's still our mentor, and we run a lot of things by him when we have questions and we're not sure. But at the group, we read what we have written. We get this wonderful feedback. We get, if something doesn't seem to set quite right, they have a gentle way of letting us know that, and then we can fix things. And the bonding that has happened in that group is just amazing. Yes, we have our, Mark is our mentor. Mark Love is our mentor, and our writers group people keep us keep us on track.
Awesome. What advice would you give to young writers who are wanting to publish books?
Wow. Well,
Oh,
first of all, keep your day job. Uh, don't just assume you can start writing books and live off the income of books. That does happen occasionally to a few people, but it's not an instant thing that happens. Um, but if you're inspired to write, you just have to start writing. Start writing your thoughts on paper, start writing your ideas, and don't judge them like, oh, this sounds dumb, or oh, who would ever want to read this? Because there's someone out there that wants to read your stories.
and you must believe that. You know, because it is true. Somebody wants to read what you have written.
Well, um, what are some projects you're working on for the future?
Glad you asked.
Yeah.
You want to tell them?
Uh, yeah. Well, this war horse theme has got me captivated because there's some really famous horses that um, have been war horses. So the story I'm working on right now is about Chetak. He's a famous war horse from India in like the 1500s. Like his last battle he was in was 1576, and he saved his master, who was a king, in a king of India in the Malur region. Um, and then he carried his master out of the battle to save him, and then the horse died of injuries at that point. So it's very sad. But from 1500, the era of 1500, this horse is still celebrated today in India. So I'm writing my first real historical fiction about Chetak and his relationship with his warrior king.
That's awesome. Peg, are you working on anything?
Well, we're working on something together. We love stories and we love poetry. And so we really like poems that tell a story. And we've written many of them. So we're thinking about putting that together as well, I guess the title of it might be Poems That Tell a Story, and publish that.
Sounds wonderful. Well, I can't wait to see him. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. My final question for you both is, if there was one thing that readers could take away from these books, The Cowgirl Trails and When a Girl Loves a Horse, what would it be?
I think for When a Girl Loves a Horse, it would be something like, okay, you have these desires, these dreams, these things that you want to do in your life. And if sometimes you can, if you pursue them, you can make them happen. They will happen. Sometimes it takes a long time before it actually happens. But if Annette and I were talking about this earlier, and Annette said one thing that she got from this was that you've got to draw a line in the sand, and you've got to stop putting off trying to make that dream come true. Because this happens to Anna as she grows up. They keep putting it off as to going back to Chincoteague and being with Misty. So I guess it would be cherish your dreams, go after them. If they don't happen the way you think they will, they can certainly happen in a totally unexpected way, and it will be a wonderful adventure for you. I guess not to give up on your dreams.
Awesome. And for Cowgirl Trails, or Trail?
Yeah, with this, a couple of things I want the reader to come away with. And one thing is pursuing your dream. You know, Carla wanted to be a cowboy when she grew up, and she got there. She wrangled the horses in Colorado and California and had these adventures. So pursue something that you're, don't give up on pursuing something. The other thing is, though this isn't an overtly Christian book, but Carla, prayed to God as a girl, please bring me a cow pony of my very own. And so she has, throughout the story, she has these conversations with God at different points.
Yeah.
And just as part of her life, which is also part of my life. So I would hope the reader would maybe take away, like maybe they'll start talking to God more. Maybe they haven't in a long time. Maybe it'll inspire someone to pursue that relationship as well. But there's nothing in here that says you must do this. But it's a meaningful part of the story too.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both so much for talking with us. And I can't wait to read these stories. They sound wonderful, and I can't wait to tell everybody about them. And I look forward to your new books coming out whenever they arrive.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah.